Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Ramacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Swamavita Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the Assembled Lord. All glories to the Assembled Lord. All glories to the Assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
I see what they see. They see me.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna. Okay. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Ishan Prabhu.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for gracing us again with your transcendental sound vibration from your devotional heart that we hope we will pick up.
You tell me when to start.
You're most welcome to go straight into it.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahabhadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratushe Namaha Namo Brahmanaya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Vrindai Tulsi Devi Priyaye Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Yani Kani Cha Papani Brahmahatya Dekani Cha Tani Tani Pranasyanti Pradakshana Pade Pade. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Hey Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Panchakalpata Rubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, I've been hearing some discussions on your wonderful program about love and trust between devotees and why we have division. Why is there this group and that group, and they're not so much happy and pleased with each other? So,
Sadly
and
correct.
huh? So,
Sadly,
yeah, so what is there? Is a simple thing. Very simple. We can solve the whole thing immediately.
die.
So, we are informed that all of us here in the material world, why we're here. We are here because we were envious of Krishna. Yes? So, so, so Krishna, he makes a place for us, just like in the material world, they make people go a little bit crazy. They make a place for them, an insane asylum, and they put them in there. In that place, people are thinking, I'm a very important person. I'm Napoleon. I'm the Alexander the Great. I'm Hercules. So we're here in this place. Now, what is the symptom that this envy of Krishna takes the form in the material world, that we are envious of each other? Is that understandable? That our envy of Krishna, that we all want to be the most center, we all want to be the most important, we want everyone to listen to me, we want to, therefore we see everyone as competition. We can't help it. There's no way around it. There's no way to avoid it. We all have this disease. And until we become devotees, Krishna conscious, we will be envious and angry at each other. And that is, so this lack of unity is nothing but a symptom of the fact that we're still in the influence of the material energy. So what is the solution? We can talk about it then from today till the end of the universe. But the solution is that we have to grow devotionally, then automatically we will love each other. Automatically we will cooperate with each other. We will do it because we love our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and we want to please him by working together in an atmosphere of love and trust. That trust will be there automatic. So, but as long as we're still on the material platform, we can't help it. Everyone in the world wants peace, but they're always fighting. They have wars. The whole history of the human race, the history of this planet, the history books, and today there are so many wars. They cannot help themselves because they're always feeling envious of each other, always feeling threatened by each other, always feeling fearful of each other, always being suspicious of each other, and always finding fault with each other. And these are only symptoms of the material nature. And we're subject like that because we're neophyte devotees. So the solution is that we have to grow spiritually. So we have to know how to do this. And that's what have been trying to talk about a little bit, according to my small understanding, degree of understanding. If you remember what we spoke about, that Krishna consciousness is not a mechanical process. That anyone who engages in japa, in deity worship, or in kirtan, they're going to feel an alleviation from their material anxiety. Srila Prabhupada explains, because the holy name, because the process is so powerful, we're in touch with Krishna. It's just like you touch something hot, your hand becomes hot. You're in touch with, Srila Prabhupada uses the electricity. You put your finger in the socket of the wall and you become electric, you become the same quality. So, or the iron rod in the fire. So we can get that effect and feel the relief. But as soon as we stop chanting, all these material activities come back again. All these material feelings come back again. So, but the difference is, the difference is you take a person like Jayananda, he's been spoken about very, very nicely on your program by my godbrother. You take a person like, but why he's always gentle? Why he's always respecting even the new person who comes to the temple? Why he's the first person to get up in the morning and the last person to go to sleep at night? Why is he serving all the other devotees and putting prasadam in their mouth, even after if they've left the movement? So many nice stories. Why is he doing that? Because he has love in his heart. Not because he thinks he should do that, because he should be demonstrating love and trust. He has love and trust. He sees the beauty in all of us because he sees the beauty in himself. He sees the beauty. Atmavan manyate jagat. We see each other in terms of the quality of our own heart. If we see faults in everyone else, it's because we're honeycombed with these faults in ourselves. And this is our philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So how does a person become? We don't become like Jayananda by thinking we should. We become like Jayananda because Jayananda was advanced in love of his spiritual master. And because he was in love with his spiritual master reveals to him the beauty of Krishna. And he's always happy. He's joyful within his heart. And that when he's on the spiritual platform, he loves all the devotees. He lives in an atmosphere of love and trust. Therefore, we have to grow spiritually, and that is the only way. The lack of cooperation, the lack of love and trust between us is because we're so very, very neophyte, and we're not advancing enough in Krishna consciousness to love each other. So that's just feedback. It's just telling us where we're at. It's and we can't help it, but we can solve it by growing. In my experience, devotees become very, very frightened when we talk about the subject of love. After all, this is bhakti yoga. Yoga means Sanskrit to link, like links in a chain, they're connected to link. That's what love means. No, that's what bhakti means. Yoga. Yoga means link. And there are different ways of linking with the absolute truth. There are so many different yoga processes. There are yoga linking devices. One can link through jnana, through, one can think Samkhya yoga. One can link, there are so many, karma yoga. But the ultimate link is the link of bhakti, where the connection, the sense of connection with Krishna is not through philosophy or meditation or tying the body in knots like hatha yoga, or controlling the breathing, controlling the mind, being very austere, being very renounced. These are, they're all helpful in the beginning, in the very beginning. But ultimately, Raja Vidya, Raja Goyam. This knowledge is the king of all education. It's the perfection of religion, because it gives direct experience of the perception of the self by realization, and it's everlasting and joyfully performed. So that all of these other yoga, bahunam janmanam ante, after many, many births and deaths, Gyanavam, the Gyani, one who becomes wise, Gyanavam, Mam Prabhupada, he surrenders to me, Krishna says, Vasudeva Sarva, knowing that me, Krishna, is everything, but Samahatma Sadurlabha, such a great soul, is very rare. So it is a, and what is that king of knowledge, king of education? Last verse in the 9th chapter, that's the first verse in the Idang tute goya tamang prabhaksyami anasuya. Today I'm going to reveal to you, because you're not envious of me, anasuya ve. I'm going to this most perfect knowledge. That's the first verse in the 9th chapter. Last verse, Manmana, always think of me. Bhavamad Bhakto, become your devotee, give your heart to me. Madhyaji, Madhyaji, worship me. Mang Namaskaru, bow down to me. And surely you will come to me. I promise you this. So this is the perfection. So we have to come to that point. So when we talk about, so in other words, it's the yoga of love. It's the love connection that takes us to Krishna, and it's the conclusion of all practices, spiritual practices. So even in the Bible, you know that Jesus, he was a real, he challenged the people in the church, the rabbis and the scribes and Pharisees, and he was attracting the people's attention, like Srila Prabhupada attracted our attention, because he's so beautified in spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. And the people are going away, and they have their, they're making their money from these people, and they have social prestige and adoration and so much things, and they have their own caste system. They did. So so Jesus, so they tried to catch Jesus and tried to trick him to say something against Shastra, so they could accuse him and disqualify. So they said, but in the just like we have so many processes, a yoga process, this process, that process, they had so many rules and regulations in their Jewish scripture, they still have today. I come from that genetic pool, although as Srila Prabhupada says, it's just another designation. But so they ask him, well, what's the most important rule? So they figure he can't say because it's whatever he says is going to be wrong. So what does he say? He says the most important rule is to love God with all of your heart. And what is the next? To love your neighbor as yourself. That's the basis of love and trust. That if we, because the second, people are thinking, oh, we love our neighbor as ourselves. That's love of God. That's not love of God. That's Mayavadi philosophy. My neighbor is not God. But if we love God, we love all of his parts and parcels. So Jesus is saying the most important rule is to love God with all your heart, and then we will love our neighbor. So it's the same thing. It doesn't matter which classical tradition is going forward. The conclusion is always the same and the process is always the same. So, but if we talk about love, my God brothers and younger generations in this Krishna consciousness movement, they become very frightened. He's talking about love. Well, why is that? Because they're thinking that love means symptoms of ecstasy in Krishna consciousness, shivering in the body, all the hairs standing on end, tears coming from the eyes. I was once with Srila Prabhupada when he was doing deity worship. He was installing the Delhi the deities in the temple, and I was his assistant. Very small group of devotees, everyone busy. So I was Srila Prabhupada's assistant. And he's bathing Radha and Parthasarathi. Parthasarathi is the chariot driver of Partha, Arjun. The chariot driver of Arjun, Krishna, is also the lover of Srimati Radharani. Of course, he's an expansion of Vrindavan Krishna, but she wants to take Krishna back to Vrindavan. So this set of deities, Radha and Srimati Radharani, and this chariot driver of Arjun, they're the deities in Delhi temple. So Srila Prabhupada is bathing them as part of the initiation ceremony. He's bathing them with this sugar and ghee and yogurt and milk and so many beautiful things. And from Srila Prabhupada's eyes, like a water pistol or a syringe, I see water coming out maybe 1.5 feet, just like a spray. It's a symptom of ecstatic love of God. And when he notices that I'm staring at him, he makes some quick gesture like, make yourself busy, do something useful. He doesn't want us to be seeing, because he was very much covering his ecstatic symptoms, because there's so many foolish people. There are foolish people. They pretend to have this love of God so that they can become attractive to their disciples. Even there are some people in ISKCON who are pretending like that. It's a little bit It's repulsive, but they can't help anyway. Nonsense. So because that's called sahaja. So because pretentious, pretending I have love of God, when then Srila Prabhupada says, then going out and having a cigarette or a cup of coffee. And so like that. So anyways, so there's so many symptoms of ecstatic love. Tears coming from the eyes like torrents, like that, like we described. Shivering, the hairs of the body standing on end. The body becomes stunned. You can't move your muscles. Everything becomes stunned. Or the voice becomes choked up. Like in the Shiksha stock, when will Yugayatam Nameshena. So the voice becomes choked. He can't speak properly because it's just so much love. So these are symptoms of love. So devotees are thinking this is the meaning of love. But love is that these are very advanced spiritual stages of love. But we can also have feelings of love on the neophyte platform. Not like that, of course. But what is love? Not lust. Krishna explains that when we come in touch with the mode of passion, Rajagun, our eternal loving capacity is transformed into a self-centered desire that to please my senses, to please my mind, my sense of social position, my prestige, it's all self-centered, that if I satisfy these things, I'll be happy. It's the same love, but it's transformed into self-centered love. Just like a clear light going through a clear lens is still a white light, but a clear light going through a red lens gives a red beam of light. So a clear love going through the mode of passion is expressed as self-centeredness. It's the same love. That's everything we want. Everything we desire in this material world is an expression of that same love. But it's being manifested in a self-centered way. And in that self-centered way, we all want to be the most important. And we all want to serve ourselves. And therefore, there's no love and trust between us. So anyway, so what is love? Well, we have love when a person comes to the mode of goodness. That's instead of being passionate for decorating ourselves with social status and social adoration and sense gratification, a person in the mode of goodness becomes very different. What do? They want to feed the poor people. They want to give clothing to poor people who have no clothes. They want to give education to people who can't afford education or don't have it. They open educational institutions. They open hospitals. They have great programs for feeding people. In other words, person in the mode, and they're not doing this because they think they should. They're doing this because they're taking pleasure in the happiness of others, in the happiness and well-being of others. They just feel good, and they can't stop themselves. So this is an expression of love, to take pleasure in the happiness of others without wanting anything in return. And that's how people are in bhakti. But Srila Prabhupada says that these people in the mode of goodness, if they come in touch with a pure devotee, he will tell them that all of these objects of your love, these people all over the world who are suffering, these animals that are being hurt in so many ways, this material nature that's being destroyed in so many ways, all of your love for all of these things is illusory objects of your affection. They're material forms which are temporary. Your love is really meant for Krishna and Krishna's pure devotees. Because these things are material, they're only fabrications. There's nobody there when you're trying to serve somebody's body. That body is the mud and water from your front yard, and we will turn back into mud and water. So we have to, of course, everyone is spirit soul. They're like as if a metaphor is given in our scripture that Krishna or God is the supreme spirit whole, and we're all part and parcel. We're simultaneous. We're one and different. We're individual spirit souls, but we're part of the whole program. We're part of Krishna. We are part of Krishna. Imagine that. As spirit soul. So we're like a leaf on the tree. Instead of watering ourselves or being in the mode of goodness, watering the other leaves, you water the root of the tree. Water the root of the tree, and all of the other leaves are getting the water. And this is the way we love each other, by loving God. Okay, by loving Krishna. So when we speak of love, we're not talking about ecstatic symptoms. We're talking about taking pleasure in the happiness of others. And then that other for us is our spiritual master, trying to please him. This is love. And therefore we read so many quotes that Srila Prabhupada says that the relationship with the spiritual master is not like following a user's manual, but it's an intimate relationship. These are his words in the quotes we read. And it's a very thick relationship. It's a very thick, intimate relationship. And he says, just like the devotees are trying to control their material desires and follow all the rules and regulations. And Srila Prabhupada said in that quote that we read, he said, well, how can they be controlled? He said, they're controlled by love. He said, that's how we are controlled. So when we cultivate love for Srila Prabhupada, and automatically we want to please him. And that desire to please him, as soon as we have this desire to please our spiritual master, not officially, but personally, opening our heart to him and wanting to please him, we'll begin to have a sense of his loving reciprocation. And that is such a sweet feeling in the heart that we'll want that more than we want our sense gratification. That's why it says every day in our morning prayer, Prema Bhakti Yaha Hoite Avidya Vinashayate. From him, this love of Krishna emanates. And when we begin to taste his love in return for our love, it will be so sweet. Avidya vinashayati, our material desires will begin to evaporate. This is the process of learning how to become a devotee. When we open our hearts and really try to please Srila Prabhupada, doesn't mean we're on the level of bhava or prema. It means we're simply transferring that very simple, mundane propensity for love to our spiritual master. That's why Srila Prabhupada says again and again, just transfer the account. Just transfer the account. So in other words, Krishna consciousness is a very personal process. It's not just mechanically, again, Srila Prabhupada said, it's not a mechanical process, but it's based on a very intimate and thick and loving relationship with our spiritual master. And the more we, as we begin to cultivate the sense of connection with him, proportionately he reveals himself to us. Proportionately he reveals himself. We begin to feel his presence. We begin to feel his love. We begin to feel his joyfulness in Krishna consciousness. And we begin to feel his love for us. And what happens, Srila Prabhupada says, what happens when he reveals his love for us, Srila Prabhupada explains. A very magical thing happens. He says that we catch it from him, just like one catches an infectious disease. Is a metaphor, of course. He says, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.25, 1.5.25. Pure devotion is as infectious in a good sense, in a nice way, just like an infectious disease is caught in a bad sense. You can catch devotion in a good sense by associating with the pure devotee. And he says, what happens when, what does that mean? He says the neophyte, people like you and me, the neophyte becomes enriched with the devotional feelings of the pure devotee. He says infection of the qualities of the pure devotee, same purport. Infection of the qualities means to imbibe or drink in the taste of devotion to Krishna. He says that. He says, so what happens? Prema Bhakti, from him this love emanates, avidya vinashayate, that our ignorance is destroyed. What happens? How is the ignorance destroyed? He says in the same purport, that when we get this taste, he calls it a taste of devotion, it makes material tastes unattractive to us. That's the beginning, anartha nivritti. Anartha nivritti develops because we're getting a taste of devotion in the association of the pure devotee. Isn't that nice? So beautiful, so simple, that you associate with somebody who has devotion, you get the taste from him in that association, and that makes material taste distasteful. This is why the spiritual master has to be a Mahabhagavat, because one can repeat his words, one can read Bhagavad Gita, etc. But and take the role of spiritual master, but he can't share this love with anybody if he doesn't have it. Therefore, this is called fraud or scam, that one takes the position of spiritual master unless he's on this platform. That's why we accept Srila Prabhupada as our guru, because he's a Mahabhagavata. There's so many quotes like in Nectar of Devotion everywhere. So what happens when we get this? We're in association with the spiritual master, and we are imbibing this taste of his devotion. And what is it that makes us able to catch this from Srila Prabhupada? That's so important, that we have to be in the mode of goodness, so we start to have, instead of a wanting mood, a serving mood. The serving mood is love. We want to please him. That overcomes the desire to be self-centered, to be so preoccupied with our plans, our to-do list, our total immersement in concern over success and failure, victory and defeat. All of these things, it makes it impossible to feel devotion at the same time, because devotion, wanting to give pleasure to another and wanting to be selfish, self-centered, they're mutually exclusive. So we have to clear that. So love, when we have these simple desires, come to the motive and have the simple desire to be pleasing to our spiritual master, he begins to reciprocate by revealing himself to us. He's in our heart. He's the external manifestation of the Lord in the heart. That's our philosophy. The spiritual master is the external manifestation of the Lord of the heart. When we take this attitude of wanting to please him, he reveals himself within our heart. We begin to feel, to sense what? To sense his joyful Krishna consciousness, his attitude of love for Krishna. And that's how we learn. That's called imbibing the taste of his devotion, becoming infected with his devotional quality. This is the process of how we become devotees. There's no other way to become a devotee. This is the way, this is the gift of Lord Chaitanya's disciplic succession. So that's the first step, is to get that taste. And then when we get that taste, first we approach him with our mundane feelings of love, and then he reveals himself. But that love is actually spiritual, because it's coming from, that's where it's coming from, but it was misdirected. As we begin to love our Srila Prabhupada, and he shares his taste of devotion to us, with that same feeling of love, we serve Srila Prabhupada now. You see, it's like a circle. It's the leaf on the tree watering the root, and the leaf receives the water. When we love Srila Prabhupada, we receive his love in return. And when we receive his love and our heart becomes filled with love, we approach him with that love. It keeps going and going in a circle and gets bigger and bigger. The more we love him, the more we realize him within our heart, his presence. The more we realize his love for Krishna, he shares with us. We become infected with his feelings of devotion. But then we use those feelings to worship Srila Prabhupada. And then he reveals more of himself and his love for Krishna. And we've become more surcharged, saturated with those feelings in our heart, and we approach Srila Prabhupada with those feelings. And in this way, it grows and grows and grows in an endless cycle. Therefore, in that purport, Srila Prabhupada says, first sign is that we become, all our material tastes go away. Next stage, 1.5.25, next stage is that we become very steady because we're not distracted from devotion. Next stage is we start to have devotional feeling. And on the next stage, highest stage, where we've imbibed more and more of his love, we have feelings of love of Krishna. And when that is really strong, then he introduces us to Krishna face to face. So the last sentence in that purport is, all of these stages go forward by having the association of the pure devotee. He's our eternal spiritual master. He takes us from square one, progressively through each stage, sharing his love with us so that we can share that love back with him. It becomes greater and greater. It takes us to the higher stage where we just start to want Krishna so much and feel so much separation. And when we want it with all our heart, and we worship and start to beg our spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada says, always praying for the mercy of the spiritual master. Just like Krishnadas Kaviraj says, praying, he takes Rupa and Raghunath Goswami as his spiritual master. He's self-realized, but he's praying, Krishnadas, praying at the lotus feet of Rupa and Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, always begging them for more knowledge, for more advancement. Okay? That's where we come in relation, always praying at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, always desiring his mercy. I engage in this devotional service. Then he says, following in their footsteps. That means that now we start to worship, do our japa, do our deity worship, do our reading of Krishna's pastimes. How? With the feeling of devotion that we are learning from him. That is following in his footsteps. With the feeling of devotion and excitement and enthusiasm and joyful celebration that Srila Prabhupada is sharing with us, we start to worship Krishna in kirtan for his pleasure, following in his footsteps, trying to please him. And when he sees that we're doing it nicely, he blesses us with more understanding. An endless cycle of advancement. This is the process by which we develop love and trust. Without this, we will still be envious, fault-finding, accusing. Without coming to the platform of Krishna consciousness, this lack of love and trust, it won't go away. We have to advance in Krishna consciousness. So this is, in a nutshell, our philosophy. This is the whole 9 yards. And so following Srila Prabhupada or becoming a Prabhupadanuga means to follow not like a user's manual, although we have to follow instructions, therefore our guidance. but to follow his devotional mood in our heart and engage in Krishna consciousness in that mood. That is a Prabhupadanuga, someone who is following Srila Prabhupada. Like it says in Nectar of Instruction, one should not see the spiritual master by his external appearance. One should try to understand the devotional feelings of our spiritual master. See, wherever we look, it's the same instruction. It's just a question of connecting the dots, so to speak. Here's a statement here, here's a statement here. Prema bhakti yahahoite avidya vinashayate. Devotion emanates from him, we catch it, our material desires go away, become infected with the qualities of the pure devotee, and get the taste from him, it makes material taste go away. Don't try to understand him from the outside, try to understand his heartfelt devotional feelings. Wherever we look, inquiry, submission, and service. If we if we are submissive enough to his devotion or feeling, then and begin to serve with that same feeling that we're learning from him. That's why he calls it an apprenticeship program, not a user's manual instruction. Do this, do this, do this, don't do this, don't do this. But an apprentice, we're working under his guidance. We're engaging in Krishna consciousness under his, what is his guidance? It's his sharing of his devotional feeling with us. That's the guidance he's giving. And we're engaging in under his guidance. Always under his guidance, not mechanically, but as an apprentice. But we're not learning to lay bricks or fix plumbing or do electrical work. What is the apprenticeship in this? The apprenticeship is learning to love under his guidance, where he's sharing that love with us. It is so beautiful. So there's all these metaphors are given to us to understand the process. And what we're connecting, we're trying to connect the dots so that that's why Srila Prabhupada, I was once in a room with Srila Prabhupada, and there was one GBC at that time, and and the lecture in the morning was about atonement, prayaschita. And he said, he was asking, what is this atonement? And Srila Prabhupada roared at him. The atonement is to read my books. Because all of these things we're talking about are in Srila Prabhupada's books. One has to read and become a study these books. Not only that, when Srila Prabhupada's books, say we're reading about, now I talk about a little bit my personal journey. I'm a neophyte devotee, but I'm trying to apply what we're talking about. We're reading Krishna book, okay? We're reading Krishna's pastime. Oh, he's wrestling with the other cowherd boys in the field, eh? Krishna does that? They're having so much fun. They're sitting in a circle. They're stealing each other's prasadam. They're putting prasadam in each other's mouth. They want to hug Krishna. They want to wrestle with Krishna, and they compete with Krishna, and they say, oh, what kind of a big, strong person are you? So-and-so is wrestling with you in a better way. or Krishna kills a demon, and they go home and they're singing about Krishna, and they're telling their parents, today, Krishna killed its demon. And they're so excited about it. They love Krishna. So we're reading Krishna book. This is part of our devotional service. So we do this. How do we do this? We're with Srila Prabhupada in our heart, in our mind. We're feeling his presence. And we're feeling his enthusiasm and his joy in reading these things. And we're becoming infected with his feelings of joy and enthusiasm. And we're reading this and sharing that pleasure with Srila Prabhupada. We're sharing that joy with Srila Prabhupada. We're saying, look, Srila Prabhupada, Krishna is wrestling with his cowherd boyfriends. Look, look, Srila Prabhupada, Krishna is killing this demon and we're cheering for him, just like people go to the football game and they're cheering for their team. We're cheering. This is love, taking pleasure in Krishna's pleasure, taking pleasure in Srila Prabhupada's pleasure by sharing this with him that he likes so much. So he said, inquiry, submission, and so the submission is having open enough heart to feel Srila Prabhupada's loving enthusiasm for Krishna consciousness, and this inquiry, submission, and the service is engaging in service to Krishna, appreciating Krishna's happiness, taking pleasure in Krishna's happiness pastimes, and sharing that with Srila Prabhupada, and trying to please. And Srila Prabhupada likes it very much. And he shares his love more with us. So then, okay, that's reading Krishna's pastimes, Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Not alone, always in the association. This is practice of Krishna consciousness in the association of the pure devotee and feeling the enthusiasm and love for Krishna consciousness under the guidance of the pure devotee, Anuga, imbibing the taste of his enthusiasm and love and relating that to what we're reading. He's teaching us how to appreciate Krishna's pastime. Now we're chanting the holy name. We're chanting the holy name and we're garlanding Srila Prabhupada. We're sitting in front of his picture or his murti form. And he says, I am present in my picture and my murti form. And he says that Krishna is present in the sound vibration of the holy name. We chant the holy name, Hare Krishna. People tell me, oh, so I'm having trouble. I'm not, what is that? I'm being distracted while chanting the holy name, inattentive to the holy name. So he said, chanting the holy name, meditate on the understanding that Krishna is present in the name. Srimati Radharani is present in the name. Meditate on that. Contemplate. Think of it. Every time we chant, all the time, think of, this is true. So, it says to contemplate this very deeply. So what I do, I sit in front of Radha and Krishna. If we don't have Radha and Krishna, we have picture of Radha and Krishna, our favorite picture. We say, Hare, that's Srimati Radharani. Krishna, that's Krishna. Hare, Srimati Radharani. Krishna. You move our focus from Srimati Radharani to Krishna with each of the 16 words of the mantra. And it's a call. Like Srila Prabhupada says, like a call of a child for mother. Mother Hara. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. Hare, Hare. You do this. You chant Hare Krishna. At first, I was chanting very slowly to connect the sound with the form, very slowly. But it's our philosophy. It's our understanding that the Krishna. And then start to get the feeling that when we chant Hare Krishna, it's not just the sound, it's Radha and Krishna. That connection will be there. Now you start, now at first I'm surrounding Srila Prabhupada with the sound vibration of the holy name, sitting in front of his picture, okay? And I'm beginning to feel that he's getting brighter and lighter, that he's enjoying this. Do you know that how Vaishnavas serve their spiritual master? Ishwara Puri was chanting for Madhavendra Puri when Madhavendra Puri was in his last day. When Srila Prabhupada was in his last days, there were devotees, my godbrother Bharajaj and Hansaduta, they were doing, with harmonium, they were chanting for Srila Prabhupada. When Maharaj Prataparudra, the king, went to see Lord Chaitanya, disguised as a common person, he was saying verses from Srimad Bhagavatam describing Krishna's pastimes for the pleasure of Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya was embracing him and saying, don't stop, keep reciting. When Haridas Thakur, Lord Chaitanya asked Haridas Thakur how to chant the holy name, and Haridas Thakur gave the Sri Harinam Chintamani. Lord Chaitanya was so pleased. When Lord Chaitanya was with Rupa Goswami, he was asking questions of Rupa Goswami, and Rupa Goswami was giving answers. And he said, no, there's something higher than that. There's something higher than that. Keep talking, keep telling me, until he started to talk about Krishna's pastimes. And then Lord Chaitanya was so happy to hear from Rupa Goswami. When when Lord Chaitanya was at Jagannath Puri, his devotees would chant the songs of Chandidas and the other great previous Vaishnavacharyas for the pleasure of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya had different devotees who would sing bhajans that would put Lord Chaitanya. In other words, the junior Vaishnava serves the senior Vaishnava by sharing Krishna consciousness with them. The senior Vaishnava enjoys it more than the junior Vaishnava, but in that way, the junior Vaishnava learns how to be a devotee. It's amazing, but it's the same paradigm. It's the same. We have to have a personal relationship. Then love and trust will come. So then, so I'm so I'm learning. So first I was learning to chant for Srila Prabhupada's pleasure. Then I was learning to chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh, connecting that sound with Radha. And I was feeling nice. I was sharing that with Srila Prabhupada, along with the sound vibration. Then another thing Srila Prabhupada says, that he wants very much, and you can find quotes from this all through the literature, not just to be satisfied with our own Krishna consciousness, but to want to spread Krishna consciousness to the whole universe, to everyone in the world, to all the plants and trees and all the creatures of the world. Haridas Thakur used to chant very loud, and he was criticized. He said, when we chant and you hear the echo, it's not the echo, it's the trees and the hills chanting back to us. He wanted to fill the whole universe with Krishna consciousness. So when we when we chant Hare Krishna japa, don't just chant Hare. Meditate that you're filling the whole universe with the sound vibration of Hare Krishna. You're giving Krishna to, and share that with Srila Prabhupada. And then you and Srila Prabhupada are together sharing Krishna consciousness with the whole universe. Srila Prabhupada will be so pleased with you. He'll share his love with you more. And you'll feel, how does he share his? He shares his feelings, his devotional feelings with us. And we become surcharged, saturated, infected with the feelings of devotion. And we engage in Krishna consciousness with his feelings, means engaging in Krishna consciousness under the guidance of the pure devotee, which means Prabhupadanuga, which means to follow in the footsteps, to follow his devotional mood. This is how we learn to be devotees. So we can do our japa for Srila Prabhupada. We can read Krishna book, Lord teachings of Lord Chaitanya, even Bhagavad Gita. Preach to Srila Prabhupada. Tell him what he's saying in this purport. Praying at the lotus feet of our spiritual master, always desiring his mercy. I engage in Krishna consciousness, following in his footsteps. Means I engage in Krishna consciousness with the devotional feeling that he's sharing with me. Praying at his lotus feet to receive that mercy, always desiring that mercy, receiving, getting from him the taste. We engage in Krishna consciousness with that taste, all following in his footsteps. That's a formula. In that simple statement, in every end of every chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya, is the formula of everything I'm talking about today. Praying at his lotus feet, always desiring his mercy that he'll share his love of Krishna with us. Imbibing the taste of his devotion in the spirit of submission, and engaging in service with that spirit of devotion under his guidance, following in his footsteps. It's so beautiful. So what I'm trying to do, I'm wishing to share this with my God brothers, with all the devotees, because I'm having some little understanding of what this process of Krishna, what it means to have a pure devotee as a spiritual master. He's not writing user's manuals. He's not speaking instruction like it's an apprenticeship program. We're learning the feelings of devotion in the association of the pure devotee, and engaging in devotional practice under his guidance with those same feelings that we're learning from him. And we're doing that for his pleasure in his association. And when he's in 434 Bhagavad Gita, when he sees that we're always submissive and ready to render service, submissive to what he's sharing with us, and ready to render service with the love, the process of inquiry and revelation, blessings, becomes perfect. That's what he says in the 434. When he sees, he's always he says the spiritual master is very, very kind. He loves us. That's why he's trying to teach us. He told me once personally that I have to take a very formal posture, because if I'm too friendly with the students, they won't understand. They have to, they won't be respectful enough. So I have to take this role, even though it's not my pleasure to act like an authority figure. But what he really wants is to share his love with us. But in the beginning, we don't know how to, we are not familiar with this context of relationship. So he said, Tad bidi pranipatena paraprashnena sevaya. Pranipat means I bow down, praying at the lotus feet of our spiritual master. Pranipatena, to get what? Tad, that's that knowledge. Tad vidi, that knowledge. What is that knowledge? Feeling of devotion. Tad vidi, you want that feeling of devotion, that tad vidi? Pranipatena, bow down at his lotus feet, always desiring his mercy. Then Pranipatena, paraprashnena sevaya, render service, devotion, engage in devotion under his guidance. Pranipatena seva, upadekshan, te jnanam, he'll give you that knowledge. Why? Upadekshanti te jnanam, jnaninas, because he has seen because he sees Krishna and he loves Krishna, he's qualified to give that feeling of love. That's why he's the transparent Vayami. That's why we can see Krishna through him, like looking through a lens or a pair of glasses or a microscope or a telescope. You can see Krishna through Srila Prabhupada. He's the transparent via media, whether the via media means something you look through. But how do we see Krishna looking through him? Do we actually see Krishna? What we see looking through him means that we're seeing through his love of Krishna. Hey, what is that? There's a beautiful in Brahma Samhita, Bhakti Vilochanena, that we see through the eyes of the spiritual, of the pure devotee. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokyanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam. Govind, he says in this verse, Lord Brahma is saying that if you come in touch with someone who has this love of Krishna, he has his eyes are smeared with the salve of love of God. That's the way then Krishna reveals himself. He can't resist. Krishna feels tremendously obligated to those who love him. The eyes. So how do we get our eyes smeared with that salve? Well, there's a person who's selling that salve. His name is Srila Prabhupada. No one else can sell that salve because they don't have that salve. That's why we go to Srila Prabhupada. So again, all of these references tie together into one understanding of how to go forward. So then we can engage in chanting the holy name, chanting japa, under his guidance, with feelings of love that we learn from him, and we're doing it for his pleasure. And he gives us more revelation, more he exposes, he shares more of his feelings of love. Or we read Krishna book or other pastimes or Bhagavad Gita with feelings that he has given, shared with us, and we do it for his pleasure. We engage with what we learn from him. The apprenticeship program means what I'm learning from my teacher, how to do something, I do that and to please my teacher. It's amazing. What we get from him, we use to please him. And that's how an apprenticeship program works. We learn from him the feeling, the touch of whatever we're doing. And then we engage in the activity, in the discipline, in the practice, cultivating the feelings that he gave us, but it's for his pleasure. And when he sees that we're learning to use, then he shares more with us. It's so simple. It's it's the process. It's not a user's manual. It's not a mechanical process that if I do like this and don't do like this for 50 or 100 years, that one day I'll be blessed with love of God. It doesn't work that way. It works that we're learning in his association and under his guidance to be devotees. Now, Srila Prabhupada doesn't expect all of us to understand this. If you go to the preface of Bhagavad Gita that Srila Prabhupada writes, the last sentence in that preface is that if he knows where he said he put so much effort into writing this Bhagavad Gita, he's explaining so much effort into explaining that Bhagavad Gita is about the development of love of Krishna and nothing else. He says, we've put so much effort into this. You can read that last sentence in, and if one person, only one person, gets the idea as we have presented and becomes a pure devotee, we'll consider our attempt a success. In other words, Srila Prabhupada knows what he's dealing with. He knows what we are. He knows how slow we are to learn. But he says so many, I don't want so many stars, I want one moon. So the process of talking, that what we're talking about is how to become a moon. Why, if we become a moon, love and trust will be manifest immediately in all the devotees around us. Why did Srila Prabhupada, why did he attract so many and they all worked together under him? Because he was the moon. Of all his god brothers, he was the moon. And in his association, everybody wants to work together just to please the moon. Srila Prabhupada is saying he wants one. So let us, each of us, try to become that one who becomes a pure devotee. How could he say that he knows that millions of books have been distributed, millions, and he's expecting only, please, if only one of those boys or girls, if one of them only understands this and becomes a real devotee, then everything will be a success. Then success means that love and trust will be there. This is how we develop love and trust. We have to become devotees and we take up. And the thing is, it's so nice that, see, even in our neophyte stage, he says by imbibing the taste of devotion and the association of a pure devotee, the neophyte, Srila Prabhupada writes in 1.525, the neophyte becomes enriched with these devotional feelings by imbibing his taste. That immediately, we get a good feeling if someone smiles at us. We get a good feeling if we're successful in something that we're trying to do. We get a good feeling if we win the lottery or have a big bank account. We have a good feeling if something is comfortable, not too hot, not too cold. We get a good feeling in so many, but those are all material. But just having this little bit of relationship with Srila Prabhupada, it gives us a transcendental feeling of pleasure, very subtle, that is nicer than any material. That's the secret behind anartha nivritti, that the unwanted things go away. Because we want more. And Srila Prabhupada told me that it's just like heroin. It's just like a drug addiction. He says he said Krishna consciousness, you'll want more of that beautiful feeling. Therefore, you'll want more to be in association of the pure devotee. You must have it. I must have his associate. I must walk with him, talk with him, be with him, reveal my heart to him, ask him, pray to him, read to him, chant to him, be with him. I must have his association. And then you won't be able to give up the holy name. Why? Because that's how you can win his attention. It's not that I have ecstatic symptoms by chanting the holy name, but my spiritual master has so much love for the holy name that when I give it to him, he shares his pleasure with me. Still, I'm so far away from Krishna, but I can get the taste of his pleasure. And I want more of that. And when he feels we're ready, taking us from one stage to the next, he will eventually give us full revelation of Krishna and introduce us to Krishna. So I'm saying it over and over in so many different ways with the hope that you'll be convinced that I'm not making something up, that I'm not concocting my own idea of what is Krishna consciousness, that this is based on this is Vaishnava philosophy. This is why the Guru is to be worshipped as much as God, Shakshar Hari. He's the empowered form of Hari in the form of Hari's pure devotee. This is why we say the lotus feet of our spiritual master is the only way, by which we can obtain. I bow down to his lotus with great honor, by his grace. From him this love of Krishna emanates. If we catch it, by him this ignorance is destroyed. Ha ha, Prabhu, O Master, please be merciful unto me. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. What is the shade? It's the shade of devotion that makes all material consciousness go away, that consciousness that's burning us. He gives us the shade. Ha ha, Prabhu, give us the shade of your lotus. That's the way to become Krishna consciousness, by receiving the shade of his love. What is that shade? It's Premanjana Churi. It's the eyes, that his eyes are smeared with the salve of love. And he's sharing his feelings of joy and Krishna with us, so that we can engage with that feeling in his association, following in his footsteps. Prabhupadanuga. Become infected. That's it, the shade. When we become infected with his feelings of devotion, we have the shade of his lotus. So we're begging for it. Every morning we sing, ha ha, ha ha, Prabhu Kora Toya Deho More Pada Choya. Prabhu Kora Toya Deho More Pada Choya. Isn't it? Isn't it? So this is it. This is it. This is what I, even I can't do it. I want to do it. The little bit I can do it, the tiny bit makes me want to do it more. So that growing desire in the heart keeps me returning to take that shade. Even though I'm forgetful, distracted, envious, animosity, fault finding, I'm so many things, but I want that taste because it's so nice. So then therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, it's just another form of addiction. This consciousness, you'll become addicted. You'll want more. That will keep us chanting. That will keep us reading. That will keep us wanting to kirtan. That will keep us, that will become mad after it gradually. And no one can understand the devotee. No one can understand. They're all crazy, mad after the things of this world because they think that these things will satisfy them. But they never satisfy. So the man who's the billionaire is still working hard to get more billions. It can never fulfilled, nothing, no amount. You can own 1,000 houses as rental properties. You can have 1 billion, 10 billion in your bank account. You can be the president of your country and have so much social prestige. You can be this, you can be that. You can win the Nobel Prize for this and that, but it never satisfies because it's all material. It can't give us that taste. So they're all mad after it, and they're frustrated and angry, and they're making wars on each other in their competition for all of the prestige and power. Madness. But if we get this taste, so we'll become mad in a different way for the real thing. Because we're spirit soul, and we're part and parcel of Krishna, and we're invoking our natural relationship with Krishna. And then when it becomes mature, when we leave this body, even before we leave this body, we'll be in Krishna Loka. Because when we leave this body, we won't be more elevated than we are when we're in this body. We'll have to get there. We'll get to the point where we have no more material desire. Then when we leave, we'll appear in Krishna Loka. Not in the Krishna Loka, but it doesn't work that way. According to our philosophy, Krishna is having these same pastimes of Krishna book in different universes. From one universe after another, just like when he finishes in one universe, he's starting in another universe. It's called Krishna's Roadshow. He's on the road giving this performance. How he lives with his pure devotees who are loving him in pure devotional service. We take birth on one of those planets in the material world where Krishna is having those pastimes, and we get our final training. We get our final training in love. We're in the association of, because when when Krishna goes to these different planets, universes, he brings his whole entourage, he brings all his pure devotees with him, and in their association, they all have ecstatic love of Krishna. They're Nitya Siddha, eternally perfect. They never under the gate. But we who are in the last stages of our training, then in that then we go to Krishna. See, like that. So, of course, how many lifetimes that will be, but we don't care. We don't care how many lifetimes. Janmani Janmanishware. Yeah. Nadanam Najanam Sundari. Ahaituki Twari. Janmani Shuri. Sometimes I get a mental block. He says, I don't want anything of this material world. I don't want adoration, distinction, and profit. I don't want followers. I don't want anything. I don't want disciples. All I want is your service, birth after birth. Meaning, let me come back here. I don't care, but let me have this because it's so nice. It's all I want. Just let me have this. Isn't that amazing? That a person could be in this world and feel nothing matters, but if I can only have this feeling of devotion. And this is the beginning. This is verse 3 in Sikshastak. So, yeah, nadanam najanam nasa kavitamba jagadi shakamai. Mama Janmani Janmani Shware Bhavatad Bhakti Ahai Tuki Twai. Yeah, Nadanam, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundari. Right? So this is, when we get to this point, then we can approach Krishna, verse number 5. Oh, my dear son of Nanda Maharaj, I'm your eternal servant, but somehow or other I've become involved in this cycle of birth and death. Please free me and let me come and Adam at your lotus feet. So we won't go to number 6 and 7. Well, when my eyes will be decorated. Oh, son of Nanda, I'm your eternal. Somehow or other, please pick me up. And then later, when starting to hanker, when my eyes number 6, decorated with tears of love, that flowing constantly. Wow. But we're not talking about that, because we're talking about the beginning. That will come, and we're not talking about that. Don't think I'm saying, talking about pretending that we're in ecstatic love. We're talking about developing a relationship with our spiritual master so we can engage on this journey, no matter how many lifetimes it takes. But at least we'll feel secure. We'll be protected. We won't have to use grim determination. We'll want it. We'll become gradually mad after. So this is what I'm trying to share, so that, because devotees sometimes ask me, well, I can't be attentive while chanting the holy name. Another devotee, what will I do with this? Wrote me the other, what will I do with the sex desire? What will I do with this? What will I do with that? Yeah. So, and others are writing, what will we do that we're fault finding each other? When will we live in love and trust? So all of this will come naturally as we just begin to have a relationship. See, I'm not qualified to talk like this. You know what Srila Prabhupada says? A lecture should be given. He calls it a platform lecture. Anyone can say the philosophy, but a platform lecture is given by somebody who's living what they're talking about. See, I should be feeling Srila Prabhupada's presence on me and his benediction on me, his mercy on me while I'm speaking about these things. Giving a class means also under his guidance, in his association, and under his guidance, for his pleasure.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Oh, okay.
Ishan, sorry to not agree with you on one point, is that from what I see in my experience, absolutely you're the right person to be talking about this subject matter, because you do have these feelings and you do have this relationship. To what degree, I don't know. It's not my area to judge, but absolutely you have.
This much, Prabhu, this much I have. But it's
Okay.
enough to make me want more. I'm getting, people get hooked on the different drugs.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. I don't mean to interrupt.
No, please, go ahead. I just said cocaine to you. You were looking for a
Okay.
drug note.
Yeah, and they have other things. I forget. Speed. What is that speed? You ever hear that? I forget. People, anyway, they become addicted. So somehow this is dawning, little. I want everyone to understand. Please don't think I'm talking about ecstatic love of God. I'm talking about developing a relationship with our spiritual master, so we can come to the level of anartha nivritti, where the unwanted things will go away because we're feeling some pleasure in our devotional service, and we're not doing it because we should. We're doing it because we like it. Hare Krishna.
I mean, you presented that so nicely, so well. I absolutely love it. And I have lots of questions for you. So I hope you don't mind.
No, I want. Please hit me. Keep me talking, because if I stop talking, then you'll keep me trying to be Krishna conscious. I need that. I do. You think I'm kidding? Who can I talk to? Who can I talk to about these things other than devotees,
First question is, as far as Srila Prabhupada emanating prema, my understanding so far is that Srila Prabhupada is always emanating prema because he simply carries it. Some people say that he emanates prema only when he's experiencing prema, when we see some external manifestations of prema. Please, can you?
It's explained.
Hey, you can leave.
Yeah, no, don't be gentle with them.
They're being clowns, they're just jumping on each other playing.
Oh, that's all right. No, it's explained. I believe it's in the Nectar of Devotion. It's explained in different places that the pure devotee is constantly, never ever not feeling. He's constantly feeling, but he keeps them inside. He doesn't there's a reason for that. It's because people in the material world are so foolish, so deceitful. People want pratishta. You know what, Srila Prabhupada? Pratishta is a word that means the desire for adoration and distinction. We want to be recognized that I'm a great devotee. It's just another part of being in the material world, that we want to be famous and we want people to adore us and to worship us. It's part of the material. So what they do, they start to pretend. That's what a sahaja is. They start to pretend that they're having ecstatic symptoms, just so they can have the adoration of followers. So it's so despicable. You know what Srila Prabhupada said about such people? He said, if someone goes in front of the altar and starts crying, some people can make themselves cry by practice. Starts crying and falls on the floor, pretending that he's fainting in ecstasy. You know what Srila Prabhupada said we should do?
Kick them in the face.
Kick them in the head, yes. He said they won't mind, they're in so much ecstasy. So for this reason, the pure devotee doesn't make a display, because immediately you'll have a whole bunch of neophyte devotees doing that. That's how foolish we are. That's how fallen we are. So he told me, I take this very formal, authoritative position. It's not my something I enjoy. I'm nobody's master. He doesn't want to be a big boss. He just wants to share Krishna consciousness. He said, but I have to do that. I have to take this role because I'm teaching, people like this. So I have to take this role. But he's always feeling like that. That's why, otherwise, how he could be, living out of like a briefcase or something, 3 days in one center, 3 days in another, back on the airplane, and then getting up 1 o'clock in the morning to dictate his books, and then giving a lecture, and then seeing people all day long, and then giving evening class, and then everyone's going to sleep. And I saw him when I was in New York. There was a window. He was on the main floor, so from outside I could see through the window. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Srila Prabhupada's reciting into his dictaphone, translating for us. How he could live on a couple of hours sleep a day, and how he could do all of that and answer letters, 10, 20 letters a day from disciples, and engage so many, and it's explained in Perfect Questions and Perfect Answers that when the spiritual master accepts disciples, he takes on the portion of their sinful reaction, and sometimes his body gets ill and shows the effect. And he says, but he's always in blissful Krishna consciousness, so he doesn't mind. But to show, so he's traveling like that, living out of, doing the translation, teaching, having so many disciples, taking their sinful reaction, instructing them with love and affection, and trying to help them to grow. And dealing with his GBCs, and they're fighting with each other, believe me, and bringing them together and making them hug each other, and so many things, and all of that he's doing, and he's never upset. Sometimes he's strong. We need that, but he's always, next minute he's joyful. Next second, he's joyful. There's one part, if you see some of the video, it's Srila Prabhupada sitting, leaning back like this against the bolster. And he says, well, now, he says, all the big men are here, the devotee. Hey, you remember that? What's the problem now? Why isn't this going forward? And he's so blissful. It's like he's talking with a whole bunch of people, and he's just, nothing is upsetting him or disturbing him. There's one interview where the person says, but you have such a big car. He says, he said, what do you mean? He says, I have hundreds of cars. He says, in every center we have. How many do we have here in this center? Then Srila Prabhupada says, and she said, but you sit in such a big chair. He says, that's why I'm sitting with you here on this little cushion, because you're envious of me. He can be honest without attacking them, and it makes her laugh. In other words, he doesn't take offense, even when people are so envious and jealous. He's totally, no, it's a mistake to think that Srila Prabhupada, He's in Krishna Loka at the same time as he's here. He's with Krishna. And he's not practicing Krishna consciousness to become, and he came from the spiritual world. All of the personalities in our parampara, they're nitya siddha. And they come from the spiritual world. And at a certain stage in their life, they start to take the role of the pure devotee, the teacher, and they're so powerful like that. And they have this relationship with Krishna, and that's what gives them the desire to. They're doing it all to please Krishna, and they're doing it their service because they have boundless. Srila Prabhupada has boundless love for all of us. He takes the form of an authority figure because we need that, but it's coming out of love. It's coming out of love. Feelings of love. Otherwise, why would it take so much trouble? So, yeah, that, and I don't have the quote available, but it says in our books that he's always on that platform. I'll try and find it. And one should think of him in terms of his outward, how he presents himself. But he'll reveal himself to us when we approach him in the right way, with open heart. Then we'll understand that he's constantly in ecstasy and always able to share that with us.
Okay, next question. I'll just ask one more, and then Gauranga Sundara Prabhu will ask his question also. Next question is, you mentioned that Srila Prabhupada did not manifest his ecstatic symptoms for the sake of not giving, let's say, the tools or the excuse or the show for others to copy and imitate that and get cheap adoration and deviate many unfortunate souls. But I read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is openly everywhere exhibiting his symptoms of ecstasy, and the main sentence here is, I read also that when people just saw that ecstatic symptoms, they became ecstatic. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, so if somebody can become directly, immediately ecstatic just by seeing the ecstatic symptoms of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but why didn't Srila Prabhupada show his ecstatic symptoms in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? I kind of got your answer already, but anyway.
It's a very good question. I mean, I'm talking with you. You're asking intelligent questions. I'm having a conversation with another devotee. I'm really, nobody I would meet in the city would ask me such a question. So, it's really nice. Well, I don't know if I have an answer, except it occurs to me that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Desiring to understand the glories of Radharani's love, the wonderful qualities in Krishna that she alone can appreciate because of her love, and the incredible happiness that she feels when she experiences the sweetness of his love. The Supreme Lord, Hari, beautifully endowed with her devotion, appears from the womb of Srimati Sachi Devi, like the moon appears from the ocean. May that Lord, who is the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendentally situated in the innermost chambers of our heart, resplendent with the radiance of molten gold. He appears in this age of Kali to share what no other incarnation has ever offered before, even offered before, to freely share this feeling of love for Krishna in this mode of love. So I guess he's making a statement by showing what it can be like. And it says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, I think you've read, that when others picked up from Lord Chaitanya and carried it, they could share that same with others. So, and this is what our disciplic succession is about. But Lord Chaitanya's feeling, ecstatic feelings, no one can copy them. He sometimes all the joints of his body would become, and his arms and legs would become so long, as sometimes all of his limbs would be in his body like he's a turtle. Sometimes his teeth would be chattering, and sometimes or he would fall into the ocean and be unconscious for a whole evening, or he would see a hill of a sand dune, big, and he'd think it's Govardhan Hill, and he'd run madly. Let people try and imitate that, and so, and at the same time, Lord Chaitanya was sometimes like fire too, So, or Lord Chaitanya was inside the Gambhira, and they would have to lock him up because he would run around at night. Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Like mad. He'd think he's in Vrindavan. So they would lock him up, and he would be rubbing his face on the walls of the Gambhira, and so he's showing what is the real thing, but his disciplic succession is distributing it, and always they are making adjustments according to the audience they're dealing with. Like Jesus said, there's so much more I could tell you, but you're not ready to hear it. You're not. He was dealing with people, very, desert people. He was saying, don't kill, don't run after your neighbor's wife, don't steal from your neighbor's animals, don't. They were very, was trying to make them into a human being. So Lord Chaitanya is showing the positive, the end result, but he was only here for some 48 years, showing what it can be like. But the disciplic succession, the real disciplic, will go on for 10,000 years. So maybe there were some people trying to imitate Lord Chaitanya, although I don't think anyone would. But all of his followers and disciples, they're in his empowered associates. They're not doing that in order to avoid. I don't know if it's a very good answer, but he's showing the real thing, and he's explaining in the literature that the disciplic succession is carrying this real thing, and and Srila Prabhupada writes in Chaitanya Charitamrita that he says one may ask, it's a wonderful thing that Lord Chaitanya could do this. Maybe you remember this passage, share like this. But that was 500 years ago. How can we get that today? And Srila Prabhupada says one can get the association of Lord Chaitanya through the disciplic succession. The same potency is there through the chanting of one should not think, Srila Prabhupada, that the chanting of the holy name is less powerful now today then it wasn't. Therefore, even it's how Lord Chaitanya became ecstatic chanting the holy name, chapter 18 and teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada describes in how Lord Chaitanya became mad chanting the holy name. He says the process is that the spiritual master, bona fide, chants. And if the disciple chants the mantra with the same feeling, that becomes the worship of the holy name. And then the holy name will spread his glories in the heart of such a disciple. Amazing. So he's saying, so then the question, right, how can I chant with the same feeling? Actually, Hayagriva was the editor, and in the next edition of this teachings of Lord Chaitanya, he changed it from equal feeling to similar. And I wrote to Dravida, who's one of Jayadvaita's editors, why he changed it to similar from equal feeling. He said, because Hayagriva decided that we can't chant with equal feeling. So he changed it. So then how we do it, Bhaktivinoda Thakur tells us how to chant with equal feeling. In his prayer, Gurudev, I think it's called, in our songbook, I offer you all respect, for thus I may have the energy, the ability to understand your feelings, to know you correctly. That means what we're talking about, you get the taste from him. Then by chanting the holy name in great ecstasy, all my offenses will cease. Oh, you who has another prayer, the taste of the nectar of the name. When will I hold your feet until the end of time? When, oh, when will that day be mine? Why? Because that's the only way to get it. So it's not directly answering, because I should only be repeating what's in our books, but that's all I can think, is that Lord Chaitanya showed the finished product, but he was only here for a very short time. And he didn't show, he started when he was in his 20s and left it in his 40s, and he was in seclusion so much. So it's a very short time compared to 10,000 years. You know, this goes on in every church. You can see them. There are videos on YouTube. People are having prayer meetings and they're passing out in the pews in their church, and other people are fanning them. What is all this? And then they're going out and doing all nonsense. So this is very strong tendency to use everything and anything in this world to make ourselves look good, to have the admiration of others. And so people, I was a president of a temple in Canada in the 80s. I was still trying to see if I could be with ISKCON a little bit. And then they put me there, and the temple was the building was bought by an East Indian community. Now the ISKCON people wanted to have another temple, and they thought they could exploit the East Indian community. And the East Indian community wanted to have a priest to keep the temple clean, so they wanted to exploit ISKCON. So, but they would come on the Sunday, and some of them would show these symptoms. They would stand in front of the deity and they'd make tears come, and then they'd go out and have a hamburger at McDonald's, so, or whatever else. So so Lord Chaitanya, I can only guess that he's showing what it's all about. But it says that there are passages in Chaitanya Charitamrita that sometimes he stopped himself from showing his external feelings. Do you recall reading that? Because he didn't want to. So he did both. Sometimes he let everyone see. And when he preached in South India, that's how he preached. Wherever he went, people recognized him in that way. But he also had refrained because he was shy. But it was for showing the final product of Krishna consciousness, so that it's not taken that, oh, maybe they're making this up, but it's historically recorded that he displayed these things. But then tucking it back into our shirt pocket or whatever, taking it back and holding it inside, going ahead with the next 10,000 years. And the responsibility of entering into that is up to us. And even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, praying at the lotus feet of our spiritual master, always desiring his mercy, we engage in our devotional service, following in his footsteps. See, those footsteps, they're there, always there. Those footsteps means following his devotional mood, but we have to earn it. We have to earn it, So that's, it's not a great answer, but it's a very good question. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Just telling Gauranga Sundara Prabhu, just one more little follow-up question to this, and then it's your question.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? Ishan,
Yeah.
Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Oh, it was very interesting to hear from you, right at the beginning of your talk, that you said neophyte devotees can experience some kind of ecstasy, bona fide, let's say.
That
So
they
then-
can. Say that again, that they can.
They
No,
can.
if you go to that purport.
No, wait. So let me just finish
Fine.
the question. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not really, that's not the question. So Srila Prabhupada said to us that if anybody comes to the temple and shows ecstatic symptoms, starts rolling on the floor, kick them in the face, because if they're really deep in ecstasy, they're not going to feel a kick in the head.
He's being sarcastic. He's being sarcastic. Yeah.
Okay. But now, what about somebody who's not so deep in ecstasy, but what you said, if you did say, if I caught you correctly, then the neophyte level of ecstasy must be some kind of, let's say, the beginning steps of ecstasy where they do cry. They may have hair standing and sort of the beginning symptoms of ecstasy. So now this is my question. How do I recognize it? That is
I
fake.
tell you exactly
Real.
how to recognize it.
Sure.
The symptom will be that they will relate to all other devotees in a mood of love and trust. That's the symptom. Wait, I can't hear anything. I can't hear anything.
Sorry, Ishan, they couldn't understand what you said. I was just re-saying it in English because we have devotees from another country here also.
Yeah.
He said that somebody who has the beginning stages of tears and headstand even, how do we know it's fake or not fake?
Yeah.
You will know by they relate with everybody with love, spiritual love. If they really
Love
have
and
that,
trust. The love and trust that other devotees are talking about, where is it? Where is it? They will have that. And there was one devotee called Vishnu John. You ever hear of Vishnu John?
Yes.
yes.
I live with Vishnu John in Texas, okay? I live with Vishnu John in Texas, and he was opening Austin, Texas. Then he went on to Houston. He asked me, "You be president now in Austin." Now, so I was president there for a little while. Anyway, Vishnu John was so enthusiastic, and when he would sing Kirtan, Prabhu, you could see his eyes were glistening with joy. You could see that. And what else he would do? At night, when everyone went to bed, he would do the brahmachari's laundry. And he would be in the kitchen cooking sweet rice for the brahmachari's breakfast. And then he would be first one up in the morning. And when he'd be on the street, they would have a harmonium and they'd have Sankirtan on the street. Across the street from the university in Texas, in Austin, he would be handing out back to Godheads and he would be singing and he would be so happy, Prabhu, that people would want to know what he's doing. What is this all about? And he made devotees wherever he went because he had this feeling inside him. He enjoyed Krishna consciousness so much. So this is what happens but where does one get that? They must get. So in relation, it's not ecstatic symptoms doesn't mean necessarily only crying and shivering and falling on the ground. It also means that one is filled with so much of a nice feeling in himself that he automatically wants to share with others. He wants to share his love with others. And he feels no doubt that this is a reality and everybody should have this. Let me share this and it's spontaneous feeling. So the symptom of love takes the shape of wanting to share this with other people. And I keep coming back to this because devotees are saying, how we become like Jayananda. Not by trying to artificially, mechanically follow Jayananda, but by what is it? Jayananda's heart is tied to Srila Prabhupada. So anyone, it's not by, it's a good example, but we have to do the work and we have to know what is the work. That's all I'm trying to, in my little ability to express these things. I'm trying to share how is it that we come to this position where we get this and we can live so nicely amongst each other, with ourselves, with each other, with other devotees and with the public wanting to share it. It's all coming from Srila Prabhupada. Therefore we say, what does it mean, all glories to Srila Prabhupada? We sing that 10 times a day. But that's what it means, that it all coming from him. So we have to know how to catch it. That Krishna consciousness, the concept can be taught, but the feeling can't be taught. It has to be caught. Just like you catch COVID, you catch devotion from someone who has devotion.
Ishan, Prabhu.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Just I want to say something and go on to the next question. So
what's your name, Prabhu? What's your name?
Balaram Das.
Balaram Das.
Yeah.
Balaram, I just want to know, I'm very happy to have your association.
Oh, you don't know how happy I am to find a jewel like you. I'll take your contact details from Gregory, Prabhu. So it's funny because you say everybody's been talking here about Jayananda, and Jayananda is famous for loving Prabhupada, but you brought up someone who we forgot, Vishnu Jan. Everybody was telling me also that Vishnu Jan loved Prabhupada. So we can see we've got two examples of how two devotees who really love Prabhupada had this mood of love and
And it attracted everybody. He didn't have to be the boss. Everyone wanted to cooperate with them. That love is the impetus for cooperation. So we're talking, how do we make cooperation amongst devotees? We make cooperation of devotees that they fall in love with us because we have Prabhupada in our heart. Then they are cooperation. And it's all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Ki Jai. Gauranga Prabhu, sorry to keep you waiting. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Danvat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada or Guru Srila Prabhupada. My
Right.
question, Prabhu, is, I've read CC quite many times and I've been reading it and trying to figure out, because I come to see verses like, Madhya Leela 8 chapter 226 verse. In that 226 verse, it is said that Vedi Marg na paibe Vrajendra Krishna Chandra. With the Vedi Marg, it is you cannot get Krishna, Golok Krishna with Vedi Marg. And before that, 221, same chapter, 8th chapter, Chaitanya Charitamrita, second Madhya Leela, 8th chapter. It says Raganuga Marg Tanne Bhaje Jai Jana. Sai Jana Pai Vraje Vajendra Nandana. It means whoever worships Sri Krishna with spontaneous or Raganuga will attain Krishna in Goloka. So we here, in Prabhupada lectures, love of Godhead to attain Krishna in Goloka. And Prabhupada, I have seen in Nectar of Instruction is telling to follow Rupa Goswami in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami internally and externally. And I can get that everywhere in Prabhupada books. But the emphasis on both the sides, the ISKCON side and the Prabhupada side, is so much that you should not talk about that subject. Don't talk about that subject. Just leave that subject. So how Prabhupada, if we had to just ignore that, Prabhupada would have not given in this books. In Nectar of Instruction, which is given to any kind of neophytes, in that Prabhupada clearly mentioned in the last 3-4 purports that you have to follow in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami, and internally you have to serve as Rupa Manjari and externally as Rupa Goswami, and everything is detailed, such for neophytes. But when we try to talk about this with anyone on both sides, they are like, oh, you can't. This is not the subject matter to talk about. Then then we should just close these books, and not distribute these books only. If we can't talk about this, can't understand this, can't follow this, then what is the use of talking about keeping these books? Just close it. So that's my question. I'm so much frustrated, with even like big devotees in Prabhupadanuga, when you try to discuss with them these, and here Prabhupada is clearly mentioning in his translation that one cannot obtain Krishna in Golok Vrindavan simply by serving the Lord according to regulative principles. Cannot. So I'm flabbergasted when people say, oh no, you can't just talk about Raganuga Bhakti in ISKCON anywhere.
No, we shouldn't.
So how to understand this, these contradictions?
We shouldn't talk. You have many questions in one container, and they're all related, and they're wonderful questions. I never get to talk about something like this with another devotee. You're really beautiful, Prabhu. I really appreciate. I'm so grateful to you. I'm going to open up my notebook, and let's see if I can find this one. Oh, my glasses. Yeah, I forget that I'm blind.
Give me some of the words and I'll try to find it for you.
Oh, it's a monologue where Krishna is speaking. I think I'll find it very quickly.
Just to let you know, we have maximum 15 minutes before the next class.
And one more, Prabhu, just a thing this, where people in ISKCON, I don't know, they don't understand. Even Raganuga is a practice, sadhana bhakti. It is not a perfect bhav, there are three bhaktis. In sadhana bhakti, there is Vedi and Raganuga. So sadhana bhakti is Raganuga. People don't understand that.
Well, you see, just off the top, we can say Srila Prabhupada was obviously on the topmost platform, but how did he speak to us? You're not this body, you're pure spirit soul, and you have to stop illicit sex, intoxication, meeting and gambling. And why he repeats this? Because we need to hear it. So he didn't talk to us about these things. So because we're talking with people who are like us, we're still conditioned souls. I've read in our books that, you know what it means to be a conditioned soul? It means still to identify with this body and material mind. Our basic teaching is that you're not this body, you're not this mind, but we still feel like that we're this body and mind. So we're still completely in illusion. We're not liberated yet. And Srila Prabhupada says in one place, I have copy it, that a person who comes to the stage of realizing that he's not this body and not this mind, he's still a neophyte. Imagine how neophyte we are. You understand? So we don't talk, it's senseless to talk about Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti, as I understand, meditating on the love that the residents of Vrindavan have for Krishna and following that mood within our heart, because we can't give it up. We can't be like that. We're not ready for that. We can't. But so at the same time, listen to this about your part of your most intricate and most intelligent question about these things, that by following all the principles, one can't go to Krishna Loka. And I'll tell you, right here it says this. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 3, verses 10 to 31. These are just the verses. Okay, are you ready? At the end of the Dvapara Yuga, of the 28th Divya Yuga, Lord Krishna appears on earth with the full paraphernalia of his eternal Vrajadam. Isn't that something? He comes here not alone, but with all of his associates, and they all are doing Krishna Loka in Vrindavan. Servitude, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love are the 4 transcendental mellows. Okay, they're showing this in Vrindavan when Krishna comes. By the devotees who cherish, and this is Krishna speaking, he's thinking out loud to himself. By the devotees who cherish these 4 mellows, Lord Krishna is subdued. Absorbed in such transcendental love, Lord Krishna enjoys in Vraja with his devoted servants, friends, parents, conjugal lovers. Lord Krishna enjoys his transcendental pastimes as long as he wishes, like that, right? He's there in Vrindavan. And then he disappears. This is the text. Oh, before I go on, there was a group of devotees in Los Angeles when I was there who were talking only about the the gopis' love for Krishna, and they were coming together and having meetings, and Srila Prabhupada said, stop! Don't do like this, because you're a bunch of neophytes. So anyway, so he says, Lord Krishna enjoys his transcendental pastimes as long as he wishes, and then he disappears. And after disappearing, he thinks thus. After Krishna disappeared, this is the way he was thinking to himself, okay? And he's going to answer your question about following the rules and regulations and why it's not enough. For a long time, Krishna is thinking to himself, I have not bestowed unalloyed loving service to me upon the inhabitants of the world. Without such loving attachment, the existence of the material world is useless. Everywhere in the world, people worship me according to scriptural injunction. By simply following such regulative principles, one cannot attain the loving sentiments of the devotees in Brajabhumi. This is Krishna's statement. Simply following all the rules perfect, you can't come to learn how to feel what the feelings of Krishna's associates are feeling for him. Okay, I'll read it again. Everywhere in the world, people worship me. Without this attachment, the material world is useless. It's not serving any purpose. Everywhere in the world, people worship me according to scriptural injunction. By simply following such regulative principles, one cannot attain the loving sentiments of the devotees in Brajabhumi. Knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration. But devotion made feeble by such reverence, it does not attract me. It doesn't attract Krishna. By performing such regulated devotional service in awe and veneration, one may go to the Vaikuntha planet and attain the 4 kinds of liberation. Isn't that something? Listen, by performing this regulated devotional service in awe and veneration with great respect, one can go to the Vaikuntha planets and attain the 4 kinds of liberation. These liberations are Shasti, achieving opulence equal to the Lord, Sarupya, having a form the same as the associate of the Lord, and Salokya, living on a Vaikuntha planet. Devotees never accept, of course, the Yuja, merging. However, since that is oneness with Brahman, then he said, so he's saying that by following all these principles, one cannot go to Krishna Loka. He may go to Vaikuntha, but he won't go to Krishna Loka. Even if that's called Sadhan Siddha. You may have heard that term, Sadhan. By doing perfect sadhana, one can go to Vaikuntha, but not to Krishna Loka. I shall make the world, I shall personally inaugurate the religion of the age, Nama Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name. I shall make the world dance in ecstasy, realizing these 4 mellows of devotional service. I shall accept the role of a devotee, and I shall teach this devotional service by practicing it myself. He's sharing the taste. Unless one is practicing devotional service, he means like this, like we're himself, he cannot teach it to others. This conclusion is indeed confirmed throughout the Gita and Bhagavatam. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of religion, at that time I descend myself to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion. I appear myself millennium after millennium. If I did not show the proper principles of religion, what you're talking about, Vaidhi, all these worlds would fall into ruin, and I would be the cause of unwanted population and would spoil all the living beings. Whatever action a great man performs, the common people will follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world will pursue. Then he starts talking about the different incarnations. My plenary portions can establish these principles of religion for each age. No one but me, however, can bestow the kind of loving service performed by the residents of Braja. Krishna is saying that no other incarnation can give the kind of love that will enable one to go to Krishna Loka. No other incarnation. Then Krishna says, there are many all auspicious incarnations of the personality of Godhead, but who other, no, this is the text again, Krishna Das Kaviraj, but who other than Sri Krishna can bestow love of God upon the surrendered soul? And he's quoting Bilba Mangal Thakur in his Lagu Bhagavatamrita. Therefore, in the company of my devotees, Lord Krishna says, I shall appear on the earth, and I perform various colorful pastimes. And thinking like this, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna himself, descended at Nadia in the age of Kali, like thus the lion-like Lord Chaitanya has appeared in Navadvip. He has the shoulders of a lion, the powers of a lion, and the loud voice of a lion. And may that lion be seated in the core of the heart of every living being. And thus, with his resounding roar, he may drive away one's elephantine vices. Just give a small, now.
That point we have to stop.
No, now, coming back to your question. In the first place,
Prabhu, just 1 second. I actually gave a lecture today on these slokas only.
Wait.
What you show? I have just come giving a lecture on these slokas. So
yes.
All the slokas, this one, Shakela Jagat More, Kare Vedi Bhakti, Vedi Bhaktya Vraja Pare, Paiteta Nai Shakti. So all these slokas I've just come giving. So that's why I'm asking this question, that how to approach these slokas.
So, but Srila Prabhupada is coming and we're all lower than Jagai and Madhai. So he's giving us Vaidhi Bhakti to come to, maybe we'll be able to read the books and understand that we have to obtain the mercy of the Krishna's pure devotee who's holding Lord Chaitanya's gift for us. We have to advance to, we have to be able to even to understand the philosophy of Vaishnavism, this brand of Vaishnavism.
It's crying time again.
Who's that?
Prabhu, it's time for the next class. There's a devotee waiting to give class right now. Your time is up.
Okay.
No,
But I just make one more sentence or two.
No, that's what it's
Hello,
over already.
Hello, hold on. Janaspriya Prabhu, hold on. Okay. Ishan Prabhu, please, yes, finish
Just simply that it doesn't, The reason we don't talk about it is to prevent people from artificially pretending they're on that platform and trying to jump to something they're not ready yet. We have to, by having an intimate relationship with Srila Prabhupada, we can come to the position of being liberated from our material desires, etc., so that we can begin this process that is that we're describing. So there's Vaidhi Bhakti, but most of us, very few of us, as far as I can see, at least myself, we're not ready to talk about these things yet. We have to have a closer relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And then those who do, what does Lord Chaitanya and Srila Prabhupada tell us? Keep acting like a neophyte. Because a pure devotee doesn't act like Srila Prabhupada act. Srila Prabhupada came down to being acting like a Madhyamadakari. He said a pure devotee can't even preach. He thinks everybody's more advanced than himself. He has to behave like a Madhyamadakari. In other words, he's showing us how to do Vaidhi Bhakti, so that we can, if we do it enough, we may become clarified in our intelligence, that when we read the books, we'll begin to understand that we need to begin to have a relationship with our spiritual master, so that we can gradually start to imbibe these higher texts.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Jai, Hari Bol.
But in the
Hari
meantime,
Bol.
don't talk about it, because
Hare
that's
Krishna.
artificial and misleading.
Well, Gauranga Sundar Prabhu, what I suggest to you is find like-minded devotees who do and can and are qualified to talk about this topic. Because, yeah, anyway, we got to finish that. But anyway, find like-minded.
You may note that I'm not talking about any of this. Not about any of this. I'm only talking about approaching our spiritual master and developing a relationship with him. I can't talk about Raganuga Bhakti.
Ishan Prabhu ki jai. Thank you so much for your wonderful, wonderful 3 or 4 days of sharing with us. We really appreciate that. And see you soon. See you soon.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.